The unsolved murder in room 1046. I've seen a bunch of people talk about this. Why is this like a big thing? Is this like like one of the haunted rooms and like a certain like building or something, or is it just like an FBI thing with John Kiriakou type level of video?
This is Randolph Probst.
Ooh.
He's a bellboy at the President Hotel in Kansas City. He just got sent to room 1046. The hotel's telephone operator told him that the phone is off the hook. Again. It's the second time he's been sent to the room that day. At 7 a.m., he knocked on the same door for the same reason.
Man, it's successful.
From inside the room, a deep voice told him to come in. But when he tried to open the door, it was locked. Assuming the guest was drunk, Probst shouted through the door to put the phone back on the hook and left. But the phone remained off the hook. So at 8:30 a.m., another bellboy, Harold Pike, was sent up to the room. When Pike knocked and tried to enter, he noticed something strange. The door handle turned freely, meaning it was locked from the outside. If it had been locked from the inside, the handle wouldn't have turned at all. So Pike used his passkey to enter the dim room.
Why are you saying damn room?
There, he found a naked man lying on the bed, breathing heavily. There was a dark spot on the sheets next to him, but with the shades drawn, it just looked like a shadow. Pike picked up the knocked-over telephone stand and placed the phone back in the hook. When he left the room, he locked the door from the outside, leaving it just as he had found it.
What? Like, how is this like a thing that happens? Are these people not trained? Like, you don't ask if they're okay or not. Why didn't do it? Why is it locked from outside? Is there no questions in these minds? Are people just like oblivious when they get hired to work like some busboy job? Like, this job isn't like sometimes there's like some things you do in your job. They're like, who cares? Like throwaway jobs, right? Like some people think of them as like a throwaway, who cares job. Like, for example, right? Like, it's like, and there's not a dig or anything on anyone's jobs. Like, the people who do the trash or people who do like janitor duty or anything, people think of them as like these jobs is like, who cares? Anyone can do them. It isn't like something you can just do as a bellboy, right? You have to do it correctly and make sure everything is okay, because you need to go back and forth between different places. So if you see this, how is it like not clocking in the person's mind? Is it not clocking to you? Are you not clocking this? Or saying the words that are coming in my mouth right now? Sorry. I don't know. I just saw like a post and I referenced. I don't know, my bad. It's like, why? Why isn't that like the first
Now it's 11 a.m. and once again, the phone is off the hook. Probst knocks 3 times, but there's no answer. So he uses his key and opens the door.
Also, who locks the door from outside for their guests? Like, what? That's
Less
like...
than a meter in front of him is the naked man, crouching on his knees and elbows with his head in his hands. Probst turns on the light. There's blood everywhere. It's all over the walls, the bed, and the bathroom. The man has a head wound. Frightened, Probst runs out and alerts the assistant manager, Mr. M.S. Weaver. The staff call for a doctor and notify the police. At around 11:15 a.m., the 2 men and another staff member return to the room. But they can only open the door a few inches. It seems the injured guest has collapsed against it from the inside. 15 minutes later, Dr. Harold F. Flanders arrives at the scene. Mr. Weaver, Dr. Flanders, and the bellboy, Pike, enter the room. The guest is no longer blocking the door. Instead, they find him sitting on the edge of the bathtub with his arms and head draped over the sink. Strangely, there's a clothesline tied around his neck, ankles, and wrists.
So somebody's going in and out, or somebody was in there.
The doctor takes stock of his condition. He's been stabbed in the chest. The wound might have punctured his lung. His skull is fractured on the right side, where he was struck multiple times. And there are bruises around his neck suggesting he's been strangled. Miraculously, the man is still breathing and semi-conscious.
What?
The doctor cuts him loose and notes that his wounds aren't fresh. They seem to be at least 6 or 7 hours old. The blood is already dry.
Alright.
According to newspaper reports, when police detective Ira L. Johnson arrives,
so
they ask the wounded man a series of questions.
Who did this, Mr. Owen? Who was in the room with you?
Nobody.
How did you get these injuries?
I fell against the bathtub.
Did you try to commit suicide? No.
Following this brief exchange,
Delirium.
the
Probably
man
just
loses
delirium.
consciousness.
I feel
He's taken
I feel like some of these reactions that people have when they're like nothing happened, nobody was there, nothing, you know, is mostly delirium, or they're getting threatened, or there's been enough pain that they aren't able to register between safety and not safety. Because the way it sounds is like somebody was going back and forth, and he wasn't just here by himself the entire time.
the hospital, but he slips into a coma. Later that night, he dies, taking his killer's identity with him to his grave. The murder is national news. It's called America's Strangest and Perfect Murder Crime. The Kansas City police are stumped.
This case came nearer to being the perfect crime than any other murder Kansas City has seen.
The strange occurrences in the President Hotel have fascinated people for almost a century. A few years ago, the case files were made public for the first time. Some 500 documents contain detailed witness accounts, anonymous phone calls, letters from a dead man, and a mysterious object found in an attic decades later. This is the unsolved murder in room 1046.
Is this still unsolved? I feel like these videos are like the way he gets his like ideas and stuff to these videos. There must be something or someone that's like doing all this research that's giving these ideas, because there's no way this is just like somehow he randomly gets this. There's probably somebody who was like on Reddit or something who contacted or emailed him and said, as a detective or somebody or relative or something, there's like, this is what happened, look into it. Because there's no way he just finds these things. How do you find these topics?
It was largely based in the official case files of the Kansas City police.
Somebody must have been doing research. He probably has like a team that does this. Because I know some like YouTubers have said they have like a whole team that do their research for them. Like if anybody remembers like Game Theory, they have like the whole team that helps them. It's not just one person, but this person still does it with them. Like I remember I don't remember if it was him or if it was like there's a different channel that was like got like some of his videos taken down or something, and then they said they're doing like a Netflix show or working with like other things that they switched from their jobs because they couldn't make enough money from their videos. And these type of channels that make these reduction level videos, they don't have just a small team working. It's like a large group.
Some details are based on research conducted by Dr. John Arthur Horner of the Kansas City Public Library, the first to gain access to these files. We also reference the 1943 article Mystery Murder, Room 1046 by the Newcastle Sun. Further sources can be found in the description.
Nice.
Oh, and yes, we fully recreated the room and hallway to bring this story to life for you.
Damn.
It's afternoon.
Holy production.
Bellboy Randolph Probst is asked to escort a new guest to his room. The guest is Roland T. Owen. He looks young, but his age is hard to guess. He could be anywhere from his early 20s to his mid-30s.
I feel like Fern realized that people react to his videos, so he decided to like format the videos to be like in a specific way so that people have like the cams in a certain part of the video. Like some parts of the like video aren't covered. There's like a lower and like center and like this, so it's like aligned in a way so it doesn't cover like certain sides, like the top right, top left, bottom right, bottom left. So the information is like still centered, so you can read it with the face cam. I think that's the thing.
He's
right?
well dressed in a black overcoat with a
Like, it
heavy-set
has to
build
be
and
with the
brown
amount
hair.
of people reacting to it.
He also has cauliflower ear, giving him the look of a boxer or a wrestler.
Ooh.
They take the elevator all the way to the 10th floor.
Or sometimes when they're like in a police force, you can self-induce a cauliflower ear. Because I think I remember like, what was that guy in Jackass? The guy who was made a video of Mr. Beast. I forgot his name. He had like one video with like Gordon Ramsay where he poured like Tabasco in his eyes or sriracha or something.
While checking in, the young man had made a very specific request. He asked for a room several floors up with a window that didn't face the street. He's assigned to room 1046.
Oh.
In the elevator, Owen tells Probst that he stayed at the nearby Mulebach Hotel the night before.
The same room that
When they
somebody
enter
died
the
in.
room, Probst turns on the light.
The guy died in.
He observes Owen taking a brush, comb, and toothpaste out of his overcoat pocket and putting them above the bathroom sink. Strangely, they're the only items he checked in with. As they leave the room, Probst turns off the light, locks the door from the outside, and gives the key to Owen. They ride the elevator down to the lobby together, and Owen leaves the building. Around 40 minutes later, cleaning lady Mary Soptic knocks on the door of room 1046. To her surprise, Owen opens it. She had expected a female guest, so she excuses herself, telling Owen she'll call again later, but he doesn't seem to mind. Entering the room, Soptic notices the blinds are drawn tight. The only light comes from a dim desk lamp. Seeing the expression on Owen's face, she notes that he seems
worried about something, or afraid.
As she starts to clean, he puts on his overcoat, goes to the bathroom to comb his hair, and leaves the room.
I mean, now you'd
On his
open the
way
window,
out, he
no?
instructs Soptic not to lock the door, as he's expecting a friend in a few minutes.
So when you open the window,
But by the
sure.
time she leaves, no one else has arrived. Soptic returns to the room to deliver some fresh towels. The door is unlocked. Owen is lying across the bed in the dark. Walking in, she notices a note on the desk.
Dawn, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait.
Soptic comes back to clean again the next morning. She unlocks the door and finds Owen inside, sitting alone in the dark. Then a realization hits her.
I realized then, after I had unlocked this door, that the man had been locked in the room from the outside.
If he had locked it from the inside, her key wouldn't have turned in the lock. While she's making the bed, the phone rings. Owen picks up the receiver and says,
No, Dawn, I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry. I just had
Oh.
breakfast.
Maybe this is like some CIA like thing where, like, you know, like spy movies, there's like certain things that people do or certain like actions or things that happens, and they're like, what should we do here? What will happen there? It's like one of those things where like you can't really tell what it is, but you can like say there's something wrong with it, but you can somewhat point your finger to, because it's not like the normal people just like living in the space. Is something going on, but you can't really like say or do anything about it. I think this is one of those things.
Before hanging up, he repeats that he isn't hungry. After the call, he asks Soptic about her job and whether she's in charge of the whole floor. He mentions that he recently changed hotels. At around 4 o'clock that afternoon, she returns to deliver
probably
fresh
should have asked
towels.
how often do
But
you
this
change.
time, Owen isn't alone. As Soptic approaches the door, she hears 2 men talking in low tones. She knocks
2
on
men?
the door.
True
Who
man.
is it?
It's the maid. I want to leave some fresh towels.
No, we don't need any. We've got enough.
Strange, she thinks. She didn't leave any towels in the room that morning. And the only reason the
Okay, if you've ever been in a hotel, you never use the same towel twice in the hotel. Unless there's like you're in like a motel or something, yeah, maybe. But if you're in a motel, you're probably getting your own anyways. But if you're in a hotel, you get it cleaned every day because that's how it's supposed to be, right? So there's a cleaner almost every single day or every other day, depending. But it's better to have it every day since they're already cleaning in and out every single day, because guests go in and out every day. So it's better to use like what you have to get it clean every day, so it's always smelling clean and fresh for you, so you have a good night's rest, which is like a luxury, which is what makes the rating go higher. And one of the things that's like very like higher like service is the toiletries with the towels and like any other thing, like sometimes being like soap or like toothbrushes or something that they have. And some people have like guests come in and out, so having more and having it stocked the entire time whenever they come to clean is like one of the biggest like service things that you could have. Because a lot of times, especially with soap, because it's like a bar soap, you drop it on the floor, nobody's gonna pick up a soap from the floor and use it again, right? That's what people do. They don't use it, reuse it. Or if you're using it at your hotel, you don't use it and take it with you after you use it like once. So that bar of soap is getting used once or twice, and then it's getting discarded.
other man might lie is to keep her out of the room. Robert Lane is driving down 13th Street past Lydia Avenue when he notices a man running down the street toward him. It's a cold January night, but he's only wearing shoes, trousers, and an undershirt. Waving and shouting, the stranger asks Lane to stop. But when he approaches the car, he realizes his mistake.
I'm sorry, I thought you were a taxi.
Still, he asks for a ride.
Will you take me to where I can get a cab?
Lane agrees, and as the man hops into the back seat, he gets a closer look at him. There's a deep scratch on his left arm,
Oof.
and he's cupping his hands together, as if to catch blood dripping from a more serious wound.
You look as if you've been in it bad.
The man responds with a grumbled threat to his attacker.
I'll kill that tomorrow.
The statement sticks in Lane's mind. When they reach the intersection at 12th and Troost, the young man thanks him and jumps out of the car. He runs to a parked taxi, opens the door, and honks the horn, summoning the driver from a nearby restaurant.
Do people do that?
Elevator operator and
Is that a thing you
stand-in
can do?
bellboy Charles Blocker is clocking in for his night shift. Shortly after, a
Review
woman
correction. What was the correction? The clock reads 12 p.m. but it should be 12 a.m. Ah.
enters the elevator and asks to be taken to the 10th floor. Blocker recognizes her as a
Wait, you can do that? There's like a message that pops up. Like, there's like this thing. It was like, view correction. I was like, this is a real thing that you can do. It's like a real thing. I didn't know that. Holy tech. This guy actually using like things that they put in the video in like YouTube, basically.
commercial woman who often frequents the hotel with different men. She's about 5'6", 135 pounds, with black hair, and she's wearing a black Hudson seal coat with a light strip of fur on the collar. She asks about room 1026, telling Blocker that she's looking for a client, a man who is usually
very prompt in his appointments.
Interesting.
But after a short time, she returns to the elevator, claiming she couldn't find him. Blocker takes her back to the lobby, and she leaves the hotel. After about an hour, she's back. This time, she's accompanied by a man. He's around her height, with a slender build. He's wearing a light brown overcoat, a brown hat, and brown shoes. They ask to be taken up together, this time to the 9th floor. At around 4:15 a.m., the woman returns from the 9th floor and leaves the hotel. 15 minutes later, the man she arrived with follows. On the way down, he complains to Blocker that he couldn't sleep. Then he leaves. It's the middle of the night, and hotel guest Jean Owen is lying awake in her room 1048. She's trying to sleep, but the noises coming from the room next door are keeping her up. She can hear multiple voices sounding both male and female. They're talking loudly and swearing. It's so loud, in fact, that she considers calling the front desk, but she decides against it. Eventually, she falls asleep. When she wakes up at 8 a.m.,
Yeah,
it's
so
quiet.
it's not
She
your
eats
problem.
breakfast and checks out, unaware that in the room next to hers, only a few hours later, a man will be found inches from death. Kansas City police detectives Ira L. Johnson and William
Hey,
E.
whenever like sometimes you hear voices in like an apartment and stuff, it's like you don't really know what's going on because sometimes people are just loud. So when they're swearing, you don't know if it's like good or bad swearing. Because like when they're like having fun and they're talking, we're like, oh, we got this, we win, we fucking winning, let's go. You don't know what it is. You don't really know if it's good or bad shouting. But it's still like at like 4 a.m. You know what might be going on in your mind,
Eldridge are at a loss.
Yeah, thinking about
They
that
finished
thing.
interviewing all the witnesses they could find, but their statements have led to more questions than answers. The front desk ledger at the President Hotel shows the victim signed in as Roland T. Owen from Los Angeles. But when they checked the
Angeles.
ledger at the Mulebach Hotel, where he told staff he had previously stayed, he was signed in as Eugene K. Scott. The detectives contacted authorities in Los Angeles, but
Oh,
neither
fake
name
name.
could be found in any records. They're fake identities.
I mean, some people do get into like hotels and stuff under a fake name. Like we've seen people have done it many times. Like you don't use your actual name because sometimes people will get like tracked or like what else? Other than track, I think it was called like when they're famous, so that when they look at it, they don't get like like their location doesn't get doxed. So people like stalk them and like find their location. Because some creators are like famous people, when they see it, they're like, oh, his name is in this hotel ledger, so maybe the actual person is there. So they use fake names,
They also pursued another lead, that the victim was
or
a
they had like somebody else book a room for them under their name, but it's for somebody else.
professional wrestler. A week after the man's death, a wrestling promoter from Arkansas named Tony Bernardi came to identify the body.
Arkansas.
At Melody McGilly Funeral Home, Bernardi positively identified the man as one who had approached him weeks earlier for work. According to John Horner, the name he had given was Cecil Werner, another alias leading to another dead end.
Well, I mean, yeah. Why not do fingerprint or like
Based
CT
on
scan
the
or
accounts
something?
of the hotel's maiden bellboy, someone clearly locked the victim in his room. Was he being held prisoner? The Newcastle Sun claims that Owen likely didn't have the key to his room, as it wasn't found there after his death.
I feel like some of these things are like something they do for like writers. They have like their editor have them in a room and they write in the room and they unlock it at certain times. Like you could have like a story of like some writer being locked in like their room and the editor saying you have to stay in this room until the morning and then you let out after you finish your work. It's like something they do sometimes to get them to focus on writing and just writing, even if they have a writer's block. So they're in a room and the only thing they can do is write, so they write. And if they want to leave, they have to like contact their like thing to unlock the door. It's like very like dystopian or like insane. But it's a thing that sometimes people do to get like their work done because they need to get it done.
And this wasn't the only thing that was missing. All of the victim's clothing, his toiletries, and the knife he was stabbed with had disappeared. Anything that could help the police identify him. According to Horner, all that was left behind was an odd collection of items. A necktie label, a hairpin, a safety pin, an unlit cigarette, and a small unopened bottle of diluted sulfuric acid. The only other clue the detectives found in the room were fingerprints on the telephone stand, likely a woman's. Possibly the same woman Jean heard arguing with two men on the night of the murder. It's plausible they were left there by the prostitute seen by the elevator operator, but she was never seen entering the room. Then there's the man she was with. Was it the same man who had been in the room earlier, talking quietly with Owen? Could that be Don, the man that he had talked to on the phone? The one that the note was for? Did they really have business on the 9th floor? Or did they take the stairs one floor up to avoid being seen entering the 10th floor via the elevator? Were they both present when Owen was bound and stabbed? After all, the doctor had estimated that his wounds were 6 to 7 hours old when he was found. This would mean that they were inflicted in the middle of the night, and that the victim had already been wounded when the bellboys came knocking that morning. But when the detective asked who had hurt him, the victim simply said,
Nobody.
Was he afraid? Delirious from his brain injury?
What I said.
Or was he maybe trying to protect his attacker?
What I said.
The account from Robert Lane, the driver, adds to the confusion.
Just play the mentalist edit of like figuring out what happened and then just be like, well, yes, should have edit.
According to Horner, the
Jay.
detectives had him identify the body in the morgue, and Lane claimed that Owen was, in fact, the man he had given a ride to. But the detectives didn't think it was possible for the young man to leave the hotel and return dressed in his underwear. Not without somebody in the lobby spotting him. At the end of the day, the detectives have nothing. No murder weapon, no murderer, not even the victim's identity. Without any actionable leads, the investigation grinds to a halt.
I feel like sometimes you could literally have somebody walk by you that you know, like it could be like your best friend. You walk by them, like literally they walk by you like this, and you never realize that it's your best friend purely because you're not paying attention. Because that can happen. Something's can be happening right next to you, like there could be a fire right there, and you just be sitting there on your phone being focused on something else, and you never realize that this is happening. I feel like this is one of those situations where he's like, nobody saw him. Maybe they were doing something. Like the guy was working on like a piece of paper, writing down notes for his shift, and he walked by and he didn't pay attention or hear anything. Because sometimes, even when you're standing there, people can be making noise and you still don't like hear it.
But then the
Because you're
strange calls
distracted.
start.
So like distracted driving is a problem.
This is Mr. McGilly. He's the undertaker at the Melody McGilly Funeral Home, where the body of Roland T. Owen has been on display for around 3 months. During this
Display?
time, thousands of people stop by in the hopes of identifying the body, without any luck. Since no family member or relative has come forward to claim it, the time has come to bury the body in a mass grave reserved for the poor and the anonymous. But first, an obituary for the unknown man is published in the Kansas City Journal-Post. Horner claims that shortly after, Mr. McGilly receives an anonymous phone call. The man on the other end makes a simple request.
Don't bury Owen in a pauper's grave.
Instead, he asks that Owen be buried in Memorial Park Cemetery. He assures the undertaker
I will send funds to cover the funeral expenses.
The caller explains that Owen
Jilted a girl he'd promised to marry.
he claims to have witnessed this, and that the three of them held a
Little meeting.
at the President Hotel.
Who is this? I'll have to report this to the police.
Unconcerned, the man simply responds.
That's all right, Mr. McGilly.
He says one last thing before hanging up.
Owen hadn't played the game fair, and cheaters usually get what's coming to them.
As all this sounds like some
the
casino
editor
row.
of the Journal Post also receives
Casino
a phone
row, I
call.
said.
But this time, the caller
Casino.
is a woman. She tells the editor that the story in the paper is wrong.
Roland Owen will not be buried in a pauper's grave. Arrangements have been made for his funeral.
Who is Roland Owen?
Are you? Who's calling?
Never
Why is he
mind.
not identified
I
with the
know
name
what I'm
Roland Owen?
talking about.
What happened to Owen at the hotel?
He got into a jam.
Just as the man on the first call promised Mr. McGilly, 20 days later, the funeral home receives a special delivery. A letter carefully addressed using a pen and ruler. Enclosed is $25 in cash. And this isn't the only anonymous delivery. 13 American Beauty roses are sent to the funeral. The florist who delivers them is instructed to include a card. It contains just the words,
Love forever, Louise.
Roland T. Owen is buried in Memorial Park Cemetery instead of in a pauper's grave. Police detectives are the only pallbearers. Expecting the man or Louise to show up, other officers disguise themselves as gravediggers and watch the cemetery for days. In the end, no one shows up to the funeral. No one visits the grave.
The scary thing is, right, even though this is like a thing that happens, there are some like stories, like if you watch YouTube and you check around, there are stories of like secret societies or like secret things that people do. Like you never know. That's the thing that they're saying, that like you never know what people are doing in a closed room, right? You never know what your next door neighbor is doing. Like you could live in a room, in an apartment where like there's like 7 people living next to each other, and one person could literally having a completely different life than the other person, and you never know what they're doing or how long they've been there or what they've been doing, or you might never even see each other ever in the hallway. And it's like one of those things where it's like maybe there's something going on somewhere with someone, and there's like a group of people that aren't related to something and have an idea of what is happening but don't want people to know, and we're seeing from an outsider's perspective, because from an outsider's perspective there's no information, but the people who are involved know everything and anything that is involved in this, so they can see it from their perspective, and it's completely different from everyone else's, which is why this is the coverage being like emptiness,
The phone
which is why you always have to like understand there's like 2 different perspectives, which is like kind of cool to see.
calls and the cash deliveries are impossible to trace. Despite a new theory being pushed in newspapers that this was a lover's quarrel gone wrong, the investigators don't buy it. They're once again at a loss. For almost 2 years, the trail goes cold, until a certain woman randomly stumbles on a curious newspaper article titled The Mystery of Room Number 1046. This is Ruby Ogletree. She's looking at an article published in the American Weekly in May 1935. The article features a photo of a dead man, a man she recognizes immediately.
Is that kind of real?
The scar on his head
Is this a real post, like a real thing? Like you can actually like Google and see? I'm not really sure though. 'Cause it could just be like a thing. Let me check. It's very similar, yeah. This is the picture. I obviously did it on Wikipedia because Wikipedia is Wikipedia, man. Yeah, it is the same. Almost exactly the same picture. Yeah, this one. Why is it that they draw it? Like, what is this drawing? I think it's weird. It does not look like this side profile. Or does it look like this? Why does he look like that? That is not even similar. Nobody would be like, oh, this guy looks like that, because looking at it, you can tell they're not the same people. Very interesting.
is unmistakable. She remembers him getting it from a grease burn as a child. It's her son, Artemis Ogletree, who at the time of his death was only 17 years old. The article claims he was murdered over a year ago in January. The question is, if her son is really dead, then who's been writing to her all this time?
Yes.
In April of 1934,
Yes.
Artemis left his hometown of Birmingham, Alabama to hitchhike across the country with a friend named Joe Simpson. In late January 1935, Ruby receives a letter from her son. It's been a few weeks since he last wrote. His previous letters were always simple, telling her about his latest job prospects, his next destination, and the friends he was traveling with.
I think that fellow I told you about was going to open a business and give me half interest in it has definitely made up his mind to open in the spring. He's about the best friend I have. He has a big Cadillac. We are going to Excelsior Springs next week in it.
Artemis always wrote by hand. His writing was straightforward, with little exaggeration and few flourishes. But this letter is different. Ruby notices that it was written using a typewriter. As far as she knows, her son never learned how to type, but the letter says otherwise.
I still practice on the typewriter when I get a chance. The big typewriter companies have branches in all large towns where you can practice all you want to.
It's plausible that he could have learned, but it does strike her as suspicious.
Oh, so the person who's did this is like, hey, how can we make it look like he's still alive so they don't suspect anything? Because they're probably doing something in the background that's like suspicious, and they need to find a way to make it look like they're not doing anything, so they can continue with the hoax. So it's like, hey, how about we do this with the typewriter? Because you can't write with the typewriter, you can't copy somebody's handwriting, so they're doing the typewriter, and it is more believable that you can be like, oh, it's a big city because we were moving around, we could use a typewriter.
The letter further, she finds out about his
I mean, it makes sense that this would be like your relation between how to make somebody think something. But then there's this thought, right? How do they talk? What's the language they use? How is their use of the language? How do they speak? How do they write? Because people who write speak differently than how they write. Because you can write a certain way, and then your manner of speaking can be completely different.
And plans to head to New York, inspired by a conversation with a sailor.
Especially with how you
I was
talk
talking to a
specific
fellow
people.
the other day. He just got back from Europe, worked his way across and back on a big freighter.
He implies that he wants to travel the world and head for Europe. But first he has to make it to New York. Conveniently, he gets a chance to do just that.
Always New York?
A man wants me to drive him and his family to New York.
The letter ends with a strange handwritten postscript.
P.S. Don't worry about Artemis. Sorry to learn he's not coming home. Lem.
Ruby receives the next letter.
Love Artemis. Lem. This is... What?
Letter several weeks later. This time from New York.
This feels like they already know that this is fake, so they wrote that, so they felt guilty. Like, it could be like the person next to them is like sitting there while they wrote this, when then they finish writing, they sign it with their hand.
Apparently, Artemis had driven the man, who he now identifies as Mr. Jordan, to the city. Jordan then helped him get a job, but it didn't work out. What stands out most to her is the letter's outlandish detail and unusual slang.
I got poisoned on something I ate at some dump. I was laid up for a few days, and my stomach pained me a lot, but I finally got over that. Then I caught the flu and had to go to bed for almost 9 weeks, and I guess I was pretty sick.
This
9
is
weeks of
inconsistent.
bed? What?
Elsewhere, he claims to have only been in New York for 6 weeks. After making excuses for not writing sooner, Artemis expands on his plans to work on a freighter.
I think that I'll be leaving here in a few days to go on
So
across
bad
the
at
big
lying.
pond. I understand it takes almost a month to get across, and maybe a few more weeks to unload the ship at different ports.
He includes the address of a post office in Paris, telling his mother to send her letters to him there.
I sure want to see Paris, so I'll be heading that way all the time.
But shortly after, Ruby receives another letter from New York.
Well, I joined the freighter for the trip across, and they have put me to work already.
Confirming his departure, he clarifies one last detail.
I decided not to send my heavy coat home.
In the previous letter, he had written that he might send his winter clothes home to her. It's a curious detail. A coat also disappeared from the scene of the crime. The signature on this final letter is once again typewritten. Artemis. Ruby Ogletree doesn't hear from her son for another 4 months. Then, one day in August, she receives a phone call from a man with a familiar name, Mr. Godfrey Jordan. Ruby has a 45-minute phone call with her son's mysterious benefactor. Jordan tells her that he's just left Artemis in Cairo, Egypt, where they had met while Jordan was traveling through the Holy Land. Another inconsistency. Mr. Jordan supposedly met Artemis in New York. Now he's claiming they met somewhere halfway around the world. According to him, the two formed a life-and-death bond when Artemis saved him from a band of thugs. To repay him, Jordan says he gave Artemis money and arranged for his passage home through Paris and London. The Newcastle Sun reports that he also claimed Artemis married a wealthy woman in Cairo and was doing well. Conveniently, he even has an explanation for the typewritten letters. Apparently, Artemis lost his right thumb during the fight for Jordan's life. Because of this injury, he could no longer hold a pen to write. This also doesn't make much sense. Why would he have started typing in New York even though he only lost his thumb in Cairo? Ruby is understandably alarmed by the call. Jordan assures her that Artemis is fine and will be home for Christmas.
You can still
He
write
urges her
without a
not to
thumb.
worry
What?
about not hearing from her
Just use
son.
your left hand.
But she
Train
doesn't
your left
buy
hand.
it.
That's such
The
a
story
lie.
simply seems too outlandish.
Only one thumb.
So she
And why
begins an
right?
investigation of her own. First, she contacts the American Consul General in Cairo. She details her call with Jordan and asks them to find her son. The consul replies a few weeks later. They are unable to find any trace of him. Then she writes to the director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, asking for any information.
Hoover.
10 days later, Hoover replies. A search of the Bureau files has failed to disclose any information about her son.
So he's never anywhere.
She also writes to the Department of State to inquire about Artemis's passport. No record is found of such a document ever being issued to him, meaning legally he
can't
couldn't
leave
have
the country.
traveled to Egypt.
Yeah.
Making no progress with her inquiries, she has one last hope, that her son will make his way home for Christmas. But despite Jordan's promise, Artemis never shows up. Desperate, Ruby makes a last-ditch effort to find her son. She sends a letter to the president, Franklin D. Roosevelt. It contains a photo, a description, and a mother's plea.
I fear he has fallen into the hands of some gang, or something has happened to him. I simply must find some trace of him.
Her letter to the White House is forwarded to the FBI. 8 days later, she again receives a response from FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover.
Please be advised that this photograph is being retained in the files here for future reference. Regarding your son, you'll be promptly notified.
The picture she sent isn't linked to the murder in Kansas City. Things don't fall into place for Ruby until she sees her dead son in that article 10 months later. The identification of...
Hey, what is this picture? What? Wait, so how is it unsolved when they already have all this information though?
Roland T. Owen as Artemis Ogletree breathes new life into the investigation. With the victim's real name, the detectives are able to retrace his steps.
Oh, because they
They
don't know who the
discovered that
actual
for
murderer.
several months he had stayed at a third place in Kansas City, the St. Regis Hotel. There,
is it
he
solved?
checked
I
in
don't
with
know.
a companion, a man who signed the register as Donald Kelso, presumably the Don. In 1937, there finally seems to be a break in the case. A man is arrested in New York. A career criminal who is known to have used Donald Kelso as an alias before. A man who served time in a psychiatric ward in Artemis's hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. A man convicted of a murder in New York that had striking similarities to the Ogletree killing. According to a New Yorker article from 1938, he had shot his roommate, dismembered him, and attempted to ship the nude body to Memphis in a steamer truck. His
What?
real name is Joseph Ogden.
God damn, this
Police
is some
Chief Otto
creepy
Higgins
shit.
decides that the cases have too many things in common for it to be a coincidence.
Creepy deaky.
To prove the connection,
Holy creepy.
the police send samples of Joseph
Yo,
Ogden's
what's up?
handwriting in the hotel
Hello.
register to the FBI. But the tests are inconclusive. Still, Chief Higgins is convinced that Ogden is the killer. In the minds of the police, the murder is solved.
We have the picture of Joseph Ogden and are satisfied that he is the man known to us as Don Kelso. And the letters written to his mother, all check.
You might call it a mother's intuition. Ruby Ogletree doesn't believe Ogden is her son's killer. To her, the letters and the phone call she received were too personal.
I mean, people can
It didn't
use
seem like the work of a
similar.
random gangster.
I feel like people have like similar like uses of like names for like their aliases, because a lot of aliases are repeating and they use like John Doe a lot. Like John Doe is like a name people use for like unidentified people, but like certain names and like certain times they could accidentally be repeated because there's only certain combinations with certain words, and sometimes by pure coincidence, it could be the exact same name somebody else used.
But somebody who knew her son intimately. Someone like his friend Joe Simpson. And Ruby has mentioned her suspicions about Simpson to the police before.
Mrs. Ogletree does not know of anyone her son left Birmingham with except Joe Simpson.
But the detectives have already corresponded with Simpson by letter. He claimed that he traveled with Artemis to Los Angeles, where they split up, never to meet again. Less than a month after Higgins writes that he's satisfied Ogden is the killer,
can I say
Ruby
yeah, I can.
writes to him again, urging him to look into Simpson.
I really do believe Joe Simpson can give us some real information, if you could only make him talk.
But the detectives ignore her suspicions. In their eyes, his alibi doesn't warrant further investigation. So Ruby continues her investigation alone, determined to find an answer. Her first lead is a letter Joe Simpson had sent after it became public knowledge that Artemis was the victim in the mysterious murder in room 1046. In it, he told the same story he had presented to the police.
I was horrified to read of the atrocious slaying of your son. Artemis was a good boy, and I'm sure he wasn't involved in anything illegitimate. If there's anything I can do to aid in the solving of this case, I will be very glad to help.
This thoughtful gesture also contained an interesting postscript.
P.S. Artemis and I left Birmingham alone, only two of us.
If true, this means that Simpson was the only person on record to have seen Artemis alive before he re-emerged under different aliases in Kansas City. Ruby becomes even more suspicious when she finds out Simpson had failed to visit her while in Birmingham for work. He'd promised to do so multiple times. Clearly, he's avoiding her for some reason. She wants to speak to him face to face, so she hunts him down. Ruby, her husband, and a friend track Simpson to the house of one of his friends, Bill Hogan. Simpson's car is parked in the street, so Mr. Ogletree goes to look for him, leaving his wife and her friend behind. It takes over an hour for Joe and his friend Bill to come outside. All five sit in the Ogletree's cramped car together.
I said to Joe, well, 5 years are a long time for one to keep trying to see one. I had been told he did not intend to see me at all.
Joe tells Ruby that he had only avoided seeing her because he was afraid she would cry. It seems to her that Joe answers her questions very carefully. Mostly, he claims not to remember. But a few key things stand out to her. The first is Simpson's voice and speech patterns. During her call with Godfrey Jordan, she had noticed a specific verbal tic. He repeatedly prefaced his sentences with,
"You see,"
or,
"You see, it's like this."
Sitting in the car now, Joe says something that sets alarm bells ringing.
"You see, Artemis told me he wanted to go to Africa."
Right after, his friend Bill corrects him, saying,
"Egypt."
Why would he correct him? Was it a slip-up?
So it's a whole hoax because something happened and they're trying to like make sure they don't catch on. So he's trying to pass it off as this and there's a whole thing. So there must be like, you know how I said there's like something might have happened and you don't know because you're not in part of that perspective? He might have been part of something that you don't know happened and you can't even perceive it because you don't know because you're not there. So he might have got himself into trouble with a certain group of people, and because of him doing something incorrectly or not the way they wanted it, he is now in trouble and they're trying to make it look like nothing happened to this person. Because we've seen videos where like with like some cults or like other things where people try to like fake their story or lie or put together a whole story so that it all like adds together and makes sense later on down the line. But then some people make a slip up because it's not true, so they have to keep up a lie. And when there's lying, there's often involvement in people slipping up. But when there's truth, it's usually just easy to go through and nobody can slip up because it's not a lie.
And how would these boys know about the Egypt lie she was told on the phone? The longer she hears his voice, the more confident she becomes. Finally, she confronts Joe directly.
I looked Joe square in the eyes and I told him I would know the voice that talked to me from Memphis.
Sitting closely together in the car, his physical reaction is difficult to hide.
He turned red, dropped his eyes, and was nervous.
When the investigation comes up, she notes a curious shift in Joe's demeanor. She says that Kansas City's chief of police called the murder in room 1046 the perfect crime. At that, Joe seems to become cocky. He laughs and says,
It is. They'll never get the ones who killed him.
Mirth is a strange reaction to your friend's death. Ruby then mentions that her son was found nude, without
What? That's so weird.
any of his clothes or even his shoes. Once again, Joe just laughs and says,
They were mine.
He goes on to explain that he and Artemis had gotten kicked out of a hotel and slept in a park together. There, Artemis's shoes were stolen off his feet. The claim raises questions about the story that they had parted ways in LA, because Ruby remembers a crucial detail. Artemis had wired her about buying a new pair, and the wire had been sent from Kansas City, Missouri.
Ooh.
If Joe remembers Artemis needing new shoes, it's likely the boys were together in Kansas City. Then Joe implies that he couldn't have been with Artemis because he was in high school during that time in 1935. But Ruby sees in the school's records that Joe was expelled for poor attendance on January 2, 1935, the same day Artemis checked into the President Hotel. The records also show that Joe had been absent from school for a total of 21.5 days, meaning that he also could have been absent in the days before the murder. Finally, Joe claims to have stayed in touch with Artemis after they split up. He promises Ruby he'll send her a letter he received from Artemis, a letter he claims
was badly typed.
Ruby knows all the letters Artemis would have sent while he was with Joe were handwritten. The letters she'd received from the imposter after her son's death weren't public knowledge. Why does Joe claim that Artemis used a typewriter? Did he receive a letter from the same imposter? Or
he
is he
wrote the
himself the imposter?
Ah, holy
Talking with the
detective.
boy, Joe Simpson, I was reasonably convinced that he is the person that talked to me 7 months after my son was killed.
Oh,
Ruby
because
never
they
receives-
don't know what the letters are, so they assumed he was writing it. Or maybe, yeah, they were assuming that he was writing it. So they wrote that he used the right typewriter, that he was learning how to use a typewriter. So they could make the excuse that, hey, this is a typewriter and there's a typewriter. But they didn't know that he was using handwritten notes, unless they saw him writing.
A letter from Joe after their meeting. When he fails to deliver on his promise, she writes up their entire conversation in detail and reports it to the Kansas City Police Department. But Joe is never prosecuted for the murder of her son.
Us. He got away with
More
it.
than a decade passes. The murder in room 1046 is still unsolved.
That's why he was so
In
cocky.
1950, the FBI analyzes the handwriting samples from Joseph Ogden and Don Kelso again. This time, they come to a definitive conclusion. The handwriting doesn't match.
I can tell by seeing
Ogden was most
your
likely
eyes.
not the killer. Donald Kelso is never identified. The case goes cold once again, until a final mysterious phone call is made, over 50 years later. Dr. John Horner is a researcher and librarian at the Kansas City Public Library. He claims that one day he receives an anonymous phone call from out of state. The caller recounts clearing out the possessions of an elderly person who had recently died. Among the things they found was a box. Inside was a collection of newspaper clippings about the murder of Roland T.
It was the
Owen.
mother that died.
But there's more. The box also contained something mentioned in the newspaper stories. Horner asks what the item is,
It's
but the caller refuses
article.
to identify it. Without giving their name, the caller hangs up and disappears.
Oh, so they don't know. That's why. Okay, this is what they meant by unsolved. I mean, it's technically unsolved because the person who did this, they aren't able to confirm anything because there's no paper trails. So most of the things that happen is just word of mouth and belief. You can't really come to a conclusive decision because there's no proof of anything. That's why it's still unsolved, because there's no proof. That's why it remains unsolved. Unless there's like a definitive proof instead of words and hearsay, you can't really prove it. And there's nothing in that time that they have evidence, because now there's like more ways of figuring out evidence, and forensics have gotten so much better. Back then there was nothing, so that's why there's no evidence. That's why it remains unsolved, because there could have been things that could have indicated, but it's been so long you can't really do it anymore, can you? Good video, cool video, interesting even, very nice. I like that. I liked it a lot.